Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How everybody doing? It's your boy Dave Saxologist on Saxofriends. Today I have another wonderful guest. He is a saxophonist, educator, recording artist, and part of the Cannonball musical family. And I mean, when I say a part of the family, he's family, okay? So anyway, without further ado, let me introduce Mr. Randal Clark. Randall, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, brother, and I really appreciate you making good on your word, man. I know it's been taking a while to get you, but the last time at the NAM show, we said we're gonna get this done.
Yeah, I've been pretty busy, but we'll make it work. It's summertime, so I have a little more time.
Yeah, I
So
understand, man. That's a beautiful thing, man. And I get to talk to you without screaming. Hey, Randall, hey, when we're at NAM, we gotta scream, right?
that's right.
So, Randall, man, so how did you begin this beautiful career of saxophonist, man? Give me some background of where you're from and when did you start playing?
Well, I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I started in the fourth grade. We had one of those elementary school band programs. And so I'm sitting in fourth grade, and the music teachers came in and said, "Hey, we're gonna have these practices twice a week. What do you guys want to play?" And I found out later because I'm a teacher now, starting people on saxophone sometimes isn't an option. Everyone wants to play the saxophone. So uh, they like push people into clarinet first or something like that because you always need more clarinets than saxophones. But they didn't have that at the time. So I was able to, you know, push saxophone and that's how I got into it. So just, elementary school band. Um, Got lessons in the eighth grade. That was the best thing I ever did because that was the first time I was really introduced to jazz improvisation, um, things like that. And I worked my butt off. Like I really took to it. And I was just, if I didn't have the saxophone in my hand, I was sleeping. Um, so, um, but yeah, I just worked my way up through school, went through college, got married, needed a job, got a job teaching uh, junior high band for a couple of years. That eventually transitioned into high school. And while I was doing that, I needed a little more money because teaching school isn't crazy lucrative.
Yeah.
But I happened to uh, have in my high school band program the children of the owners of the Cannonball Musical Instruments Company. And so they found out that I was kind of looking for a job. I think I dropped a hint to someone that knew them that I was probably going to go work at Blockbuster Video or something like that. That's how long ago that was. Um, but they gave me a call and said, "Hey, how about instead of Blockbuster, why don't you come up and work for us?" And I thought that was great. At the time, I didn't really know anything about Cannonball at the time. I think I'd seen them at one educators trade show or something like that. This is 24 years ago. So it's been quite a while, but I didn't know anything about it. And it's been really eye-opening over the last 24 years working in the musical instrument business, as
Yeah.
well as the other things that I'm doing. But I mean, that's a brief background there, but
You know what? It's amazing that Cannonball is such a just it's just a family thing pretty much, right? It's Tevis and Cheryl and the rest of you guys, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, so Tevis and Cheryl opened the company in their garage in their house basically, and when they started, they were hiring people to help them that were in the neighborhood, to unload the truck
What?
and but eventually, that's turned into quite a sophisticated company. I mean,
Yes.
it's really phenomenal the things that we're able to do there. But yeah, I mean, all their kids worked for them. My wife works for them. One of my children has worked for them. I mean, so it's been when you say family, it really kind of is. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it shows too, man. And I tell you what, at the NAM show, your booth is probably the most happening booth at the NAM show, man. You know what I mean? It is so much going on there.
There are some times when I literally can't even stand in the booth. I'm outside on the aisle and I'm looking in because there's so many people. You can't wedge your way in there. I'm like, wait a minute, don't I work there in that booth and I can't even get in the booth. So yeah.
It's so much fun there, man. And I tell you, and I don't know if you remember this, but I was talking to you at the NAM show this year, and I says I have to have that. I told you I had to have
Oh,
this.
you got it.
I got it.
I can't
Yeah,
even get one, man. That's great.
you know,
Yeah,
it was
if we
kind of
could keep
hard to
them in
get.
stock, maybe I could get one, but
It was kind of hard to get though, man. I went through a couple dealers, man. I found Midvale in somewhere back east or somewhere,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And
they're a great dealer.
oh,
Yeah.
beautiful horn. So now, is there just a certain amount they made it? Is it a certain amount they're not going to make anymore?
Uh, Initially, we were just making it as our 30th anniversary model. Wanted to do something different.
Right.
But if it was received well, we had the option of continuing to do it if we wanted. And doing a blue saxophone is kind of a risk.
Yeah.
You know, you run the risk of something looking really cheap. Um, and that isn't what Cannonball's all about. Our instruments have always been like fine jewelry, and
Yes.
high-end watches. That's kind of the way we think of the instruments that we make. And so we actually have had that blue color in the works, I mean, for maybe like 6 years. I mean, because every time we would do it, it was like the color's not quite right. And if the color gives a sense that it's cheap, we just weren't going to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been such a good seller. I wouldn't be surprised if we continued to make it even after
Yeah.
this year. Yeah.
And it won best in show too, didn't it? Yeah.
Best in show. Yeah.
I mean, out of all the now there's 9,000 saxophones at the NAM show.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
you to win, that, I mean, that just says a lot about,
Well,
the
it's not
company.
even that award wasn't even just saxophones. I mean, it's best in show with all, musical products carried by the dealers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did they come up with the name Cannonball?
Um, they were trying to think of something. It's funny, a lot of people think that, oh, there has something to do with Cannibal Adderley, and it doesn't. They were very into the owners, very into like medieval themed kind of things. Um, they've always liked medieval castles and old cannons and things like that. And so Cannonball just kind of came to mind and it really worked. Um, like we have a model, it's not a model, it's a finish. It's the completely unlacquered instrument that we carry is called a Mad Meg. That's actually the name of a old medieval cannon,
Okay.
it's very
Okay.
famous. I think it's Norway, maybe. I can't remember exactly where it is. Hotspur is a famous um, medieval knight, so there's uh, a medieval theme is kind of woven through the company ever since the beginning. Um, it was really heavy back in the beginning if you look at the old stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and now it's just kind of a highlight, but that's where they came up with that. Yeah.
That's amazing. I wanted to ask you, we're gonna get back to, your career and everything, but I wanted to ask you, what kind of preparation does it take for you guys to come to the NAM show? The behind the scenes thing. How long does that take you guys to get that together?
Well, I mean, we've already started. I mean, because I mean, part of it is you got to have a booth space. It has to look a certain way, and depending on how big your space is, where you are, that can change. So our literally the elements of the booth itself, the graphics and the walls and the chairs and the table, stuff like that. We start planning that now. Um, you got to get all your reservations and everything booked. I mean, I think our hotels are already booked. I mean, it takes quite a while, but mostly, and then it's also, like what are we going to have that's interesting or new in January? So it isn't. We've never gone. We kind of think of it more like a car show.
Yeah.
When when you go to a car show, you don't just want to see the Ford Escort, that they've got there. You want, what does Ford have that's new and cool, or
Yeah.
and that's kind of what we always want to do. We want to have something that's fresh and something new. Last year was easy, being the 30th anniversary, and
Yeah.
that born. Um, Not that every year is earth-shattering or anything like that, but we're always talking about what's going to be new, what's going to be improved, what's really going to make an impact in the saxophone world. Not just saxophones. I mean, because Cannonball's, into trombones and trumpets and clarinets and
Yeah.
flutes and
Yeah.
the whole bit now. So. Yeah,
So, which brings me to the question: uh, you're a band director, high school band director. Are you still doing that?
I am. So this will be my 30th year teaching
Wow.
public band. Yeah, public high school band. And it's been great. This is a very rich in terms of desire for that kind of stuff for band music here in the Salt Lake Valley. And I've been fortunate to teach at a couple really nice high schools. Um, and we've done really well. So the ensembles that I've worked with have always been among the very top in our state, if not the country. So it's a big job. I mean, I wake up early and I do jazz band in the morning, and then I teach a full schedule, and then I'm working for Cannonball when I am off school. So I get out of school and I go to Cannonball, and then I'm working there, for until whenever. And then there's some work I can do at home. My wife and I, do the website, and we have this thing called the Cannonball Band. You've probably seen
Oh my
some of
God,
the
that's
videos, and
I got to talk to you about that.
well, I'm the one that produces all of that. So I'm in charge of all the camera work. I don't actually, press record on it. So
Right, right.
look, my wife will come and press record, or my daughter or somebody.
Mm.
Uh, but I'm in charge of setting that all up, setting up the recordings, setting up the microphones, helping get the arrangements. And then I'm the one doing all the audio and video editing after the fact too.
Wow.
So there's work I can do a little of that at home in the evening, but I kind of feel like I'm working all the time. I don't really have that's one of the reasons why it's taking so long to do this interview is like I don't know when I'm gonna have a chance to sit down. But I'm not teaching right now, so it's a lot
Right.
easier.
Well, you know what? And I was, as I doing my research and the background, I was just like, I was just saying, how does he sleep? You know,
Very
because
little.
yeah,
I get five.
music.
I get 5 hours
But
a night.
music is in you. I think if you got a cut, music will come out because there's just so much of that in you, right? All day, you know.
I don't do anything else except golf.
Okay,
That's that's the
that's
only
another
other
thing
thing
we have in common. How's your golf game?
it's good. So I mean, it can always be better, right? Um, but uh, but that's something. It's the activity that isn't music that I enjoy the most. Actually, the high school I teach at, I help coach, and last year they were the number one high school team in the country, and this year we're the number four high school team in the country. So it's like a crazy good high school team that I get to help coach, and then I get to go play with my kids. All my kids golf,
Oh,
you
wow.
know,
Are you
like
single
so.
digit?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
figured you were.
Yeah, we take it pretty seriously. So
So do you whoop up on Gerald Albright? Because I know Gerald plays too. You ever play with Gerald sometime?
I've played with Gerald many times, and
Oh, have
that's
you?
actually I don't know if we'll get to it this summer, but it's kind of almost become an annual thing the last you
Okay.
know few years, and so it's been great to get together and golf with Gerald, and he plays great, so it's always fun.
Yeah, I noticed that he got those clubs on his signature model, right? He had those little
He's
clubs at the bottom.
Yeah, I think he's as crazy about golf as I am. So it kind of works out for us. We have something to talk about if we're not talking about saxophone. So
What the game? You know what? It's a lot. That game is it's almost like saxophone away because you only get out of it what you put into it. You know.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like a lot of things, but I do think golf has quite a tight relationship with music in the way that you are required to work to be good. Um, it you do have to put in the work because it is so difficult to get to the point that you need to be. And it is not like riding a bike. When you take time off, what you haven't been putting in slips, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so to
Muscle
be at that
memory.
elite, yeah, to be at that elite level, you literally have to be putting in, the time all the time. And that's a little bit of a challenge for me. But, you say I don't sleep, but I'm cramming everything I can into every pocket that I can. So if I got 15 minutes to go out and work on my golf swing, I'll go do that. Or if I got half an hour here to work on something on my saxophone, that's when I'm doing it because I don't really have like a dedicated like 2 or 3 hours that I can. Oh, this is my practice time. So I'm literally trying to shove my practice time into all these little pockets that I can fit it into, and then it works out real well. I keep my saxophone. I can't turn my computer around, but I got my saxophone sitting right here. I can just pull it right up and just start playing. So I got 10 minutes. I got something to work on. You know, that's how I'm doing that. But
Let's talk saxophones now. Let's talk about when you were growing up. Where were you playing when you first started? What kind of saxophones were you into before you got to Cannonball?
my very first saxophone was a student con made in Mexico, and they were one of the more popular ones at the time. It was back with probably the Bundy was
Okay.
really popular back then. Yamaha wasn't really a thing yet. They were starting to. Um, and then I don't know, 3 or 4 years after I got into saxophone, mostly by eighth grade, I was able to talk my parents into helping me purchase a professional horn, and the private teacher that I had a relationship with a guy who dealt in vintage instruments. So I was able to acquire a Mark VI at that time. I still have that horn. Actually, it's a crazy story. I'll tell you if you want. I did
Yeah,
sell it at one
sure.
point, but
Yeah.
I have it back. When I got married and I started working for Cannonball, I started thinking to myself, well, I don't really need this Selmer. I'm not playing it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't playing it because I worked for Cannonball. I was actually it's funny, when I started working for Cannonball, I'd go work on the Cannonballs at work, and then I'd go home and I'd take my Selmer to the gig at night. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it was just really hard for me not to take my Selmer because I just liked it so much. But after I would play the instruments at Cannonball so much, I'd get home and I'd play my Selmer and I'd be like, this isn't as fun, and so there was this little transition that kind of happened over time. So initially I was doing that trade-off, but eventually the Selmer just stayed in the case. I would just take the Cannonball that I was using from work to wherever I went. And I never had a desire to pick up the Selmer because whenever I did, it was always somewhat of a disappointment. But I still kind of have an emotional attachment to
Right.
it.
Right. Right.
It was my first real horn, and obviously, the Mark VI is, a very revered horn that people like. Um, but when I had this Cannonball and I wasn't playing it anymore, and teaching school at the beginning was hard. I mean, I think my first paycheck, oh boy, I think it was like $1,200 or some, or $1,400 for the month. That was
Oh,
that was for the month.
yeah.
And I had a couple kids we're trying to figure out, so I decided I was going to sell my Mark VI because I wasn't playing it. So I did. I sold it. In fact, my sister found someone that like a collector that wanted it. Come to find out, there was no collector. My sister bought my saxophone to help me out.
What?
And yeah, and so about 5 years later, there's a knock at my door, and I go, it's my sister there, and she goes, here. She hands me my saxophone back.
That's
So
amazing.
so anyway, so now it's just sitting over there in a closet.
Yeah.
But so that was a pretty amazing story. I had no idea. So I thought that was gone forever. Um,
You know what? The urban. I've never played I'm not really into vintage horns. That's just not my thing. But the ergonomics, I understand, weren't that great though, especially like on Mark Six compared to the newer ones. So
well, I mean, as in everything, everything improves.
yeah,
So it's like one of the reasons that I wasn't playing the Mark VI was because, I mean, even saxophones that weren't very good at the time felt better in the hands usually and played more in tune and play than the old vintage horns because in 1960 they'd come to a certain point of improvement in the instruments that they could make, and some are very good. I mean they still are good today, but you can get some horns that aren't even very well respected today, and you can put them up some against some of these vintage models, and they really do hold their own because as improvements have happened, other people have adopted some of these improvements. So you know that really is what it is. For people, I've never understood people that say, "Oh, the vintage horns are the best horns." I mean, I understand that there's a love for them, and I have obviously a love and an attachment for my Mark VI. But I look at it kind of like a vintage car. It doesn't drive anywhere as nice as vintage car doesn't drive anywhere as nice as my new car.
right.
It's not as quiet, it's not as comfortable, it doesn't go as fast, it
Yeah,
isn't as
yeah,
the vintage car is loud, clanky. It
right.
needs constant maintenance, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but we still love them, and that's kind of the category I put it in. And if you do give them that constant maintenance and you do a lot of work, I mean, they can be some really nice horns still.
yeah. But they
But
do
they
have to go to
were,
shop all the time. That's what I heard, though. Don't they? Do have to do
they
that.
were really inconsistent. I
Yeah,
mean, you, I think I was lucky. I got a pretty good one. I played some that are better than the one that I've got, but I've also played some that were just dogs,
yeah,
and they just don't play at all. So I mean, it's
yeah,
just kind of. But most modern horns, especially with what we do at Cannonball, everything is much more consistent because the manufacturing process is much more refined. And then like we go through this special process where um, we don't just like toot on the horn to see if it's working before we send it out. We actually do quite a bit of professional level work, getting tone holes or pad heights, exactly where we want them. We have some processes we can do inside the tube of the instrument to help them resonate better. Like we're always tweaking just to try to get that highest level of refinement that we can to the instrument to make it, awesome. So yeah, vintage horns just they didn't have the benefit of that, but they were as good as they could be for the time.
yeah, yeah. That's true.
So
Yeah, that's a good answer. Hey, let me ask you about your plan, man, because man, those split tones you do, brother. I'm like, I watch all your stuff, right? All your covers, and I know David Sanborn definitely be one of your influences, man. The way you play those split tones. So let's talk
yeah,
about your tone. How did you develop it? Who did you listen to?
I listened to David Sanborn. I mean I mean initially it was Paul Desmond, to be honest, because
Okay.
that's my mom was a huge Dave Brubeck fan, and she grew up when Dave Brubeck was touring, and she would go out and see him. We had records in the house of Dave Brubeck, so I was always listening to Paul Desmond. But when I was in boy, seventh, or no, I bet be about just right before eighth grade, right when I started taking lessons. That Christmas, my mom went to the record store and I'm going to get my kid, which is awesome. I mean, you're going to get your kid um, a record of a saxophonist. I mean, how much better is that to have something you can listen to and model? I mean, back then it was I mean, you can't just go onto YouTube back then and, or, all you had was what was on the radio, pretty
Right.
much, especially for a kid that didn't have any money and couldn't go buy records, right? So she went to the record store and she didn't know anything about saxophone really. She said, "Hey, my son's playing saxophone now. What do you have that's really great that we could give?" And he gave her the Hideout or Hideaway album
Oh,
from
okay.
David Sanborn.
Yeah.
So that literally is the first record I ever owned was
Okay.
David Sanborn Hideout or Hideaway. I keep saying Hideout. I have a
Hideaway.
song named
Yeah, Hideaway. The white
Hideaway.
cover. The
Um,
white cover with the
yeah, the white
yeah,
cover.
yeah, yeah.
And I listened to I mean it was on cassette tape. It wasn't on, there was no CDs yet.
Right, right.
Oh, and I that we did have a record player in the house, but it wasn't that was kind of what the family used to listen to music on, and so nobody really put their own stuff on that. So you just had your own tape player in your
Right.
room to listen
Yeah.
to. Otherwise, the record player was used for classical music. So I mean, I grew up with classical music, like
Oh,
exclusive
okay.
classical music, and then Dave Brubeck.
All right.
So, um, but yeah, my dad was a music. He graduated in music from college, and he's a vocalist, and classical music was extremely important to him, and that's what we did. We'd have music tests like as young kids. He dropped the needle on songs. We were expected to learn them and know what these things were. I mean, so
Wow.
that's one of the reasons I teach high school music. I mean, I don't just do band, I do orchestra too. I mean, for a long time, I didn't think I was going to be a saxophonist. I thought I was going to be a conductor. That's what I really want. And actually, I am now. I'll tell you about that later if you want. Um, but yeah, David Sanborn, I just wore that out. And I remember hearing those split tones for the first time.
Yeah.
And there was something about that just revved me up inside. Every time I'd hear it, it was like going down the first hill of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And I just like I have got to learn how to do that. So I don't know how I learned to do it. I can't tell you the process. But I would sit there with the record player and or not the record, the cassette tape, and I'd hit play and hear and stop and I'd figure out. I mean, I would learn his solos like
Yeah.
else. So, but yeah, that's how I got into it. And then I got into Eric Marienthal big time. And I
Oh,
think a lot of people here a lot of Eric influence in my playing, which is obvious, I think. The first time I heard Eric was on my very first CD that I ever owned, which was a David Benoit record called Urban Daydreams, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's this the title track has a saxophonist. Well, my young ear couldn't quite differentiate the difference between saxophonists yet. And I thought that this saxophone player was David Sanborn.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I went to the record store and I bought this CD and I brought it home and I opened the thing up and I opened up the liner notes and it was this guy named Eric Marienthal. And I'm like, what the heck? Like I don't know who this guy is. I don't want this guy. I want David Sanborn. But that's how I got into him. Um, I went through a Nelson Rangel phase. It was funny growing up in Utah, contemporary jazz like that was not very accepted.
Mm,
Um, this is a straight ahead jazz town.
okay.
And, for what the jazz there is. I mean, that's what it is. So I also had to learn to be a traditional jazz player. Um, so, and then I just do all the stuff in the basement on my own. And also living in Utah, it's like, how am I ever going to be a performing artist like this? I can do the straight ahead jazz. I can do all that and I'm okay, but it's not what I really want to do. And I didn't really have the tools to do my own thing until my dad bought a keyboard that had a sequencer on it that I could start composing my tunes. So that's what I started doing in my basement. I would start writing my own tunes with this more, pop vibe to it, very David Sanborn, very Eric Marienthal. I would even transcribe. I'd make covers of their songs. I'd rip the bass lines off, and this is how I learned to play bass.
Well, you
Um,
basically
like like well, this is how I learned to play keyboard bass. I can play a little bass now, like real bass, but I learned to play bass lines. Just because you have a bass sound doesn't mean you can make a convincing bass line,
you're right.
you know. But doing this is how I learned to play, convincing bass lines, and how I learned to play jazz keyboard and get voicings and things that sounded right because I would listen to these records and I would literally rip off, the record. What I didn't know with the Eric Marienthal stuff, especially some of the not the really early stuff, but the sort of early stuff, the keyboardist I was ripping off was Jeff Lorber on a lot of that, and I had no idea,
That's a wizard, man. Jeff
anyway,
Lorber, man. He's something else, man.
I wasn't a keyboard. I was a saxophonist. I didn't really care who the keyboard
Right.
artist was anyway. So, but I don't know. That's kind of how I got into this. I was just really I wanted to make this kind of music, and I didn't have a way to do it with people around me because nobody did it. So I had to do it myself. I had to figure out a way to do it, you know. So
So how old were you when you figured out that this is what you want to do for a living, that you want to play music?
I was in high school. I mean, I don't know if I decided I wanted to play music, but I knew I wanted to do music. I had two fantastic band directors. My junior high band director, my high school band director were really amazing people. And I remember thinking to myself, well, I think I want to do what they do. So I was thinking, first of all, I want to be the conductor of a symphony orchestra. And I'm like, well, that's gonna be a little hard. I like living where I live. I don't want to be moving all over the place. Um, so I'll do public school band. I think that'll be great. And I was as a sophomore or junior in high school, I was already thinking that's what I wanted to do. When I got to college, I was sure that that was a dumb idea. Um, but I went into it anyway because I just couldn't think of what else I would do.
Yeah.
2 years into the college degree, I was like, now I know I've made a big mistake, but I'm too far along to stop, so I might as well finish,
Right.
you know. And then I got my first teaching job, and that first year was the worst year of my life. And I remember thinking, now I really know that I don't want to do this. And but I didn't know how to do anything else. I went to the local music store and said, are you guys hiring?" And they said, "Yeah." And they told me how much it would be, how much money I'd make. And I went, "Oh, geez, that doesn't make any more than teaching, and it feels like a lot more work. I don't get my summers off and stuff like that." So I decided to give teaching one more year. Best year of my life, you know.
Amazing. Yeah.
And ever since then, it's just been like, in some ways, not every year, but most years, it's been like living the dream, you know. But I had to go through that. But I always tell people that, you know, if you don't know what to do, you really just kind of have to keep doing whatever is at the top of your list, you know. If you're too far along in something, just finish it. Just keep going. Um, do the things that you think are going to make you happy, you know, as much as possible. And if I had been able to think of something else, I probably would have changed gears and done that. But I just couldn't think of anything else. There's nothing that, you know, even the hard work and teaching, the fun stuff is way more fun than anything else I could think of doing,
Yeah.
you know. So,
Now, with all that being said and all that's going on, now you still play too, though. So you still
oh
out as
yeah,
an artist too, though. So
yeah.
how
So
you
I mean,
you
I've
do that?
got, what's funny, and I brought up Jeff Lorber because um, I decided I was going to start making records, and because of my connection with Cannonball, I had a friend who um, he does front of house for a lot of bands as they come through Vegas in this one of these venues, and so because of that, he would meet a lot of the acts that would come through, and one of those acts was Jeff Lorber Fusion, and he had developed a friendship with Jimmy Haslip, who was the bass player. He was, you know, founding member of the Yellow Jackets,
Right. Yeah.
and he also played bass in Jeff Lorber Fusion. And so he connected me up with Jimmy Haslip, and through that, Jimmy Haslip's been producing my records. And through that, because of his association with Jeff Lorber, Jeff has helped produce and write, and I mean, just so much of the music on my first four records. And I even got to tour with him for about a year and um, do a few things. It's been pretty incredible. So I hear this keyboardist, you know, that I've been transcribing my whole life that I didn't even care who was,
Right. Right.
you know. Um, but I mean, by college, I did know who he was, you know. And so when I got connected with Jeff Lorber, it was sort of like, holy crap, that's awesome. You know, like
Yeah. Yeah.
someone that I've been my music has been identifying with for all this time. I'm now going to get to produce that stuff like on the real world scale here, you know.
That's amazing, man. Jeff, it's funny. Just brings me back to a story. Back in the day when I was in the military, I was up in San Francisco in this club called the Old Waldorf, and Jeff Lorber Fusion was playing there. So me and my buddies, we went to get tickets at the thing, and they were coming in to do sound check. But we didn't know who they were though. It was just a bunch of guys with long hair, Kenny G, curly long hair and all that. And
Yeah.
then I was like, that looks like the guys on the record. And I went up there and it was Jeff though. And so that was funny though, man. Just to run it. That was in like 79. That's how long ago that was. So. And they were just getting
You're
going.
yeah. Well, it's pretty crazy. The cool thing is not only has Jeff worked on my records, but I've been able to play on two of his. So, and that's, you know, for me, that's like the biggest badge of honor I have is someone like him would ask me to play on their record, and you know, so that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. So let me ask you about this Cannonball band, man. So okay, I know you do a lot of work behind it. How did you guys come up with the idea to do that?
Well, one of the things about Cannonball is, you know, a lot of saxophone companies, they might have some people who play the instrument that work for them and that kind of thing, but Tevis Lockett, who's one of the owners, is he was a touring musician. I mean, he played for everybody, you know, in the horn sections and stuff like that. I mean, he really knew what the world was like in that regard, and he was a really fine player. That's why he did it so much. And then his wife Cheryl was a junior high school band director, you know, so she has that education side. And so
Yeah,
it's like the company isn't just a guy that plays a saxophone and then a bunch of people and investors and things like that. It's like everybody that works at the company is not just a musician, but they're a musician at a very high level, whether in education or as a player. And we thought it was really important that people know that, you know, and that we don't just know how to turn a screw on an instrument.
yeah,
Like like when we send this out and we say that it's something we would play ourselves, we hope that that garners a little bit of respect because I hope people understand that we when we say we like something, we're very refined at what we say we like because we can actually play the instruments, you know.
yeah,
So that was where that came from. We wanted to show people we could play the instruments, but we didn't just want to stand up there and be like, "Hey, everybody, it's us from Cannonball." we wanted to make it um, bigger than that. We wanted to make it also something that would help um, market our endorsers, like Gerald Albright, and we've had so many endorsers on that stage.
Yes.
So we thought it would be great to come up with some original arrangements of tunes that people would like. And YouTube was just starting to get big at the time with this kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
so it was something we just kind of slid into very easily. And we've kept doing it. We hear from all these people, mouthpiece makers and other saxophone makers. They go, man, I wish we could do what you do, and I there's a reason why they don't. Is that they probably don't have enough people that work at the place
Yeah.
with the in the playing or the know how to get it done.
Right.
So it costs way too much money. For us, it's really easy because we can play the instruments. We can stand up there on stage with Gerald, and we can be humbled by him and hold our own a little bit at the same time.
That's right. Yeah,
You
that's
know?
right, man. Hey, dude, you definitely be holding your own, man. You know, that full throttle. I was looking at that full throttle again, man. You started that off like I said, boy, Randall ain't playing with it. Randall coming for he's going for the gusto on that solo, man. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's probably the fourth or fifth time I've been on stage doing those with Gerald, and so it was a little more comfortable. The
Yeah.
first time, taking in my shoes. So,
But you're great too, though. But I understand what you're saying though, because of just who he is. But I mean, but lick for lick, I mean, you can play yourself too. But I know what you're saying. Gerald is he's just one of
yeah,
the goats, man. You know that thing. When I was talking to him at the NAM show, I said, Gerald, that percussive thing, to make it sound
yeah.
like he's playing two horns, man. What is that, man?
He has a real individuality about the way he goes about that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um, it's not something that I could do. I mean, I'm a completely different player than he is, 100%. Um, but and I've tried to do some of that stuff, and I don't know, I could probably get through a bar or two, but he can stand up there for. I just saw something on social media yesterday. He's up doing a little cadenza for like 3 minutes.
yeah,
Just sit and do that stuff all over the place. It's pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
yeah. He's great, man. Say, you don't let me ask you. Give me your Mount Rushmore of saxophone players, and I'll give you five. I know it's hard to get four. I'll give you another one to throw in there.
My Mount Rushmore, not in any particular order. I don't think I could rank them. Um, for sure, for sure, David Sanborn, 100%. In fact, I'll just say people who changed the saxophone. Um, these are people I think that are iconic in the way that they've changed the saxophone. And obviously, Charlie Parker. I'm a Sonny Stitt fan. I would probably listen to Sonny Stitt way more than I'd listen to Charlie Parker, but you can't deny Charlie Parker changed the way that people play the saxophone. John
Right.
Coltrane changed the way that people play the saxophone.
Yes.
Michael Brecker changed the way that people play the saxophone. David Sanborn changed the way that people play the saxophone. He came through a different genre, sort of,
Right.
more blues and um, things like that. But it's just iconic. So those guys are all on my
Yeah.
list. Cannonball Adderley is on my list.
Yeah.
I think he changed in a lot of ways the way people play the saxophone. Um, and then, these two guys are all players too. I mean, they could really dig in and play the horn. And there are other guys that can play the horn great too, but I think the way they changed the saxophone wasn't by the notes that they play, like the amount of notes that they played, but by the way that they sound and the way that they phrase. And I think you got Grover in
Yes.
that, and
Yeah.
I think you got Whalen in that
Oh
discussion.
yes. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so um, I don't think I think guys that do the kind of music I do see Kirk Whalum, and obviously he is someone that we recognize as being extremely influential.
Yes.
Um, I think people that don't do this kind of music have no idea what Kirk Whalum is all about and why he's a big deal, you know.
Yeah. That tone is everything, man.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't listen to a lot of Kirk growing up at all, except on some of the pop stuff he did, the
With the
collaboration.
Houston stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you look at my CD collection, um, and what's interesting is as much as Eric Marienthal influenced me and Nelson Rangel, like they're probably not on my Mount Rushmore, but I still go back and probably listen to Sanborn, Marienthal, and Nelson Rangel more than any other saxophonist like
Yeah.
out there. That's kind of my happy place. Like if I'm just going to listen, that's what I'm putting on. If I want to work hard and feel bad about myself, I'm putting on Sonny Stitt or Michael Brecker, you know. So,
Um, that's, let's talk mouthpieces, man. What is that metal mouthpiece? And I know I know that's a Silverstein ligature you got on there.
so I do like the Silverstein ligatures. I'll be honest, I haven't been putting it on a lot because not because there's a problem with it. If all I did was perform, I'd probably have that Silverstein ligature on 100% of the time just because it feels good. I don't think most people are ever going to like discernibly be able to tell a difference
Yeah,
unless I'm sure you can tell a difference. Um,
slightly. Yeah, just slightly. The rest.
just slightly,
Yeah,
and you'd probably have to learn what the difference is. Someone might have to point out to you, like, do you hear that? And then
yeah,
you can kind of learn what the differences are. I don't know if those differences are very important. However, what I do think is important is when I do put on the Silverstein ligature, I feel better about the way I
yeah,
feel more resonant. I feel more free. And that's a big deal. So I think if you feel like you're a better player, you will be a better player.
yeah.
But the reality, I take mouthpieces on and off the instrument so much at Cannonball, and I usually just, and then I got to bring it home. And anyway, it's a little bit finicky with the Silverstein to get it set up exactly the way I want it. And so just because I'm not willing to go through the hassle for most of the stuff I'm doing,
Yeah.
I generally just have a one of
The
these. What do I?
Rovner.
And it's not even a Rovner. I don't even know what this is. This is just the stock thing that came with.
Okay, yeah, those. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
This one's a Jody Jazz. I actually have two alto mouthpieces I'm really fond of a lot. One is that Jody Jazz DV.
Okay,
Um, the other is that the Retro Revival Eric Marienthal
okay,
special.
yeah, yeah.
They both kind of do different things for me.
Hmm.
I do when I'm doing a jazz gig or something with my students, or I'm at the high school like demonstrating or doing things or master classes. I very often will have the retro revival on my horn. Um, when I'm doing more, I can be a little bit more Nelson Rangeli
Yeah.
with the DV.
Yeah, okay.
And so a lot of the stuff that I'm actually doing at home, a lot of the pop covers and a lot of the music that I'm doing, that's kind of where I lean in a little bit, and so I can get a little more of that. But the problem I find is with my DV, even though the DV is really versatile, so I could play that in a big band section if I wanted, but because of how free my particular one is, I have a tendency to want to lean into that fusion stuff too
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
That I'll put the retro revival on, and that feels a little more comfortable for doing some of the big band stuff, some of the jazz stuff that I'm doing. But that's primarily for alto what I'm playing on those two. I'd been playing on a Beechler. I mean, okay, I was an Eric Marienthal fan, right? And
mhm.
in 1991, I just had to know what he was playing on, you know. And I'd look at the pictures. I think that
Yeah,
looks like this. And I'd go to the music store. Do you guys recognize this? What is that? One of the guys happened to know what it was. So I did get a Beechler back when I was, how old would I have been? 16.
metal
I
or hard rubber.
had a, well, I
Metal.
started hard rubber. I got my first Beechler when I was in junior high. So that and the Lakey were the two mouthpieces that
Okay.
everybody played
Yeah,
back then, or a Meyer, one of those three. Um, Me liking the little brighter sound, I wanted to be more like David Sanborn. I got the brighter one, but I couldn't afford the metal one. But when I turned 16, I could. It was
yeah.
70. I remember. They, actually, I think he gave me a break. He gave it to me for 65,
Ooh, boy, can you?
brand new.
Field
And I,
one is paying nine hundred
I
dollars for mouthpieces. You know.
it's those some of those metal Theo mouthpieces are they're up there. I do have to admit though, I they just Theo just sent me a tenor mouthpiece.
Uh-huh.
That I actually I wake up in the morning with like I'm excited. I want to go find a tenor to play because I love playing this mouthpiece so much.
Which one
And
is?
I it's the Brahma.
Okay.
I've had a Durga that I've been using at Cannonball a little bit. Is a little bright for me. So, but this one, man, it just hits all the tenor buttons. And I love Jody makes a killing tenor mouthpiece. Well, I've had the Eric Marienthal Retro Revival tenor as well, and it's
Yeah.
killing. They're all killing. This particular one right now is just pushing all the right buttons and it's good. So I I I don't know if I want to go as far as say it's worth it, but maybe it is because the it's really an exceptional mouthpiece.
Yeah.
So and I don't know what they cost. They has to be at least $800
Seven,
new.
they're 750 and up. I have
Yeah,
a Durga 5 alto, and like you said, it's just to me, it's just a little shrill for me though. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It was just a little shrill, so I was like, and then so I went to the Jody Jazz Quasar,
yeah,
the new one. That one's cool, but you know what? But to be honest, around, I don't have the ability to control that. I'm not
sure.
as good as guys like you. So I'm kind of going back to my HR because it's more manageable for me.
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, right? Do what's comfortable for you, right?
absolutely. And you know, I mean, obviously the Quasar is like a really brilliant mouthpiece. His Superjet's really brilliant mouthpiece, but that isn't really what makes it so brilliant. I mean, that I look at it's like the icing on the cake is kind of what these mouthpieces do.
Hmm.
Is you on everything. If I play a Quasar, if I play a DV, if I play a Durga, I sound about 97% just like me on every single one of those,
Yeah.
even though I feel like, oh, I'm way brighter on this Durga.
Hmm.
Um, but then I record myself and I go, actually, I really sound almost exactly the
Yeah.
same as I do.
Yeah.
So your sound is what you develop. That's where the sound comes from. And it's the mouthpiece doesn't really matter as much. So you just got to figure out what's comfortable. I mean, obviously you're going to have, between an HR and a Durga,
Right.
quite
Yeah.
a big gap there,
Right.
so you're not going to sound like David Sanborn on the HR, but you can probably get part of the way there,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
flowing right into it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it though. So let me
Yeah.
ask you, Ryan, as a high school band director, is one of the prerequisites you have to be familiar with all the instruments or something like that?
It's part of the coursework.
Okay.
Depending on the college you go to and the teachers you have, I mean, miles will vary a little on that. There, we had a percussion class, we had a brass pedagogy class, we had a woodwind pedagogy class, and we had to learn to play all those. And another university I didn't go to, they were actually having them on every one of these instruments. They had to learn like a little etude, you had to get to at least like a junior high solo and ensemble kind of proficiency on these instruments before they pass you out of the class. So you're working your butt off. We didn't have to do that at the university I went to. I'm kind of glad, and I'm also kind of sad at the same time. I think it would have been cool to be a little bit more proficient at a lot of those instruments, but the pedagogy is what really matters. If you really understand the instruments, that's what matters more.
Okay.
Um, when you hear, a stuffy sound or a thin sound or a this or a that, and you can say, well, that's because of the reed or because of your lip placement on the mouthpiece, or, um, you know, if you can determine that stuff by your ear, that's more important than being able to play the stuff. I famously tell my students that to this day I don't know one fingering on the bassoon, even though I had that in college, but I've had no interest in learning the bassoon. It's too complicated, too many buttons. I don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
Well, Tevis Lockett, I mean, he is one of the most fantastic bassoon players you will ever hear. In fact, he's probably better on bassoon than saxophone, to be honest. And
Wow.
he's one of the best saxophonists I know.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not interested in that. But so, you do things, a bassoonist comes in and, hey, this isn't working for me. What can I do? I'm like, now it's great. Here's this YouTube video. Go,
Yeah.
go watch this. It hasn't been a detriment to what I've needed to do at all. And we've been able to do things at a real high level. Um, but yeah, I mean, you're expected to at least have an understanding of
Yeah.
all those, what's happening and
Okay.
stuff.
You have a real passion for teaching. I can just hear that. So, what is it about giving back this wonderful gift that you have that makes you feel good about it? What is that?
I don't know. It's funny. Like, I don't know if I've ever thought of it like I'm giving back. I mean, in a lot of ways, I'm built that way. my kids will tell you that I my children, I drive them insane because I'm the kind of guy that's always correcting something, you know, and it makes my son really mad out golfing because, something will happen and I always have a comment that I've got it because and they don't want to hear it, but I have to say it because I'm always trying to teach somebody something. I mean, it's just the way I'm wired, and so it irritates a lot of people. But when you're a teacher, that's what you're expected to do. So they just have to shut up and listen to you in the classroom, right?
Right.
Um, so I really enjoy making people around me better. There's this concept of a rising tide raises all ships, and I've never wanted to be better than anybody. I've never, it's fun when your kids perform really, really, really well. So there's a lot of selfishness in that too. Like I sort of crave. We're working on a concert band piece or a jazz band piece, and your band goes in and completely destroys it. I mean, it's so good. Like that feels really good. There's a dopamine hit right there, and it lasts for a while. It's not 10 minutes. So I really like that. But more than that, I just really like making the people around me better. I want people to be successful. That's just the way I'm wired. Teaching can drive you crazy too. I mean, there have been some years
Yeah.
where I, man, I can't do this anymore, you know. Uh, but but every job has that kind of stuff, and I think I get a bigger payoff than I would doing anything else. So yeah.
You ever get a like a savant in one of your classes, like some kid that just came out and just like, what the heck, man? Have you had something like that?
Every so often they come along. I just had a keyboardist that graduated the year after last who was when he came in ninth grade. I remember he uh, he was playing some tune. I can't remember what it was, but made me think of this David Benoit tune. And so I went to him. I said, "Hey," I said, "Here's this David Benoit song. I think you'd like it." He came back the next day with the whole thing learned, and this is not an easy tune. I mean, this is
Yeah.
like, and he learned it all by ear and the whole bit. And you see, he was one of those kids.
Yeah.
Um, he's ended up going on. I can't remember last I heard. I think he's doing dual enrollment at Berkeley and Harvard or something. And
Oh,
I it's one of those things. But he is just going to be absolutely successful at whatever he does. That kind of thing. We get those kids once in a while, and that is really, really, really fun.
yeah.
Most of that isn't what you get.
Yeah.
You
Right. Right.
you just have to learn to make. But I never settle for just because this is what I have, this is this is all I can expect to get.
Right.
I have an expectation of what a high school band should sound like, jazz or concert band or whatever, and we make that mark, whatever it takes, every year or as close to it as we can. I mean, that's the mark.
Yeah, and I did read that you're like you said, you guys are very top of the notch as far as performances, man. All across the country. That's some good stuff, man.
So
Hey, Randall, do you do regulation at Cannonball? What do you do as far
when
as
I started at Cannonball, that's all I did.
the regulation?
Had to learn how to do all that. And so after the horns are produced, I mean, we go over those with a fine tooth comb and we work on pad heights and we work on the regulation, making sure that's all good. If something needs to be repaired or replaced, because in manufacturing, not everything always works out 100%.
Right.
So we're just making sure that's all good. So that's all I did for a couple of years. And then I got into Cannibal does something really interesting called acoustic customization. And I kind of alluded to that a little earlier. There's things that we do inside the saxophone um, in the tube, manipulating the shape of the metal and things like that we know correct pitch in certain parts of the horn or resonance in certain parts of the horn. And so every horn comes out of the manufacturing process slightly different. They're all very good to where, they're very close to being perfect, but there's always a little bit of work we can do on those. And so that's now what I do almost exclusively there. Other than today, we were doing a whole bunch of research and development on some new stuff that we're coming out with, so I'm involved in that. But um, when I'm on site at Cannonball, usually what I'm doing is I'm playing the instruments that are going out to dealers, making sure that they are when they get to when that blue horn. So I played that blue horn
Okay.
before it got to
Oh,
you.
you did? Okay.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did some special work on it. I didn't know it was going to you, but
Yeah, right, right. But yeah.
I did some special work on it just to make sure that it was going to play. Like if this was going to be my horn I had to live with for the next 30 years, would I
Yeah.
be okay with that? And that's how, basically what I'm doing is making sure that's the case. And most of the time that is the case because I go home every day going, man, I think about that one or two horns I worked on today that I wish I could have taken with me, but I can't because it's going to Midville,
Yeah.
you know?
That's funny though. And because when I got it, well, first thing I asked the guys, I said, is it already set up? Because I know Cannonball does their stuff, but do you guys check it? They say they check it too. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know I already know you guys check it though.
I'm sure they have some sort of process. I cannot believe that what other people do is to the extent that we do. I don't know of anybody. I mean, I totally believe that they're checking them for leaks and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they probably doing that, maybe.
You'd have to be dumb not to, right?
Yeah,
I don't think people are doing the kind of pro setups that we're doing and the acoustic work that we're doing. Nobody's doing that I know of. I mean, so
so
and
it's
it's
ready. It's ready when it
yeah,
leaves from you. It's ready.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, that's why a lot of guys are playing the horn, like Gerald.
Yeah,
It's he doesn't want to have to get a horn and then, you know, figure out 15 things that he has to change or aren't working right or
yeah,
whatever. We want it to be set up as close to the way any pro would want it, and everyone's a little different. People,
right.
I'm sure, will tweak things a little bit, but I guess we say we get them exactly the way I want them.
Yeah. All right.
So, and you'll like it because
And now when I see you in January, I'm saying, hey, Randall, man, you did a good job, brother.
yeah.
But you know what? The horn is so damn pretty. It's almost like sometimes I don't even want because I still have my Black Ruby too, because I got the A5 Paul Taylor one. I have that one as well.
Yeah.
So I really didn't need this, but it was just so damn pretty. I had to have it, man. you know, and I
And
played it. I played
you're
it
not
there
alone.
too. You know, and I was going to ask you, why won't you guys sell the ones there? Because you need to take them back. Because I was trying to buy it. There.
Oh, you mean at NAM?
Yeah.
We will. But usually what happens is it costs a lot of money to transport those instruments.
hmm
And so usually a local dealer in Anaheim, um, we will ask them if they would like to take those before we even get there, so we know that we don't have to take them back.
Oh, okay.
And it isn't always all the horns, so there always are a few that may be for sale there at NAM, but usually those horns are already they go to the NAM show and then we load them up in a van and we just take them down to whatever the dealer is there that wanted them. So
Did
so
they
that's
did they take the blue ones there? Pretty much. Did you take them back home, or they left?
not everything goes to the dealer.
Yeah.
So we do take home a few. I don't remember.
Yeah.
It changes every year.
Right. 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 Yeah. Well, man, I tell you what, man, this is or around the man. We talked saxophone for 4 hours, man. So man, this has been a really wonderful interview, brother. And I want to ask you about the facility. Do you guys do tours at the Cannonball Factory?
Yeah, if you know you're coming to Salt Lake City
Yeah.
and you want to make a phone call ahead of time and say, "Hey, we're coming by. Could we would it be okay if we came and looked around?" We have someone that does that. We don't get a lot of people that do it. And our factories are mainly in Taiwan.
Right.
And so most of the actual, like soldering and putting stuff together is done
Right.
there.
Right.
Um, but most of what we do there is, like I said, the acoustic finishing that we do. Also all of our hand custom engraving is done in Salt Lake City, so that's kind of fun to go watch.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a ton to see,
Right. Right.
uh, but people do want to come and
Yeah,
and
but I saw the factory tours on YouTube. I was like, I was going to ask you. I said one of those days I might have to fly out there and just do a tour, man.
yeah,
I
just
mean,
just
see you guys.
when you know you're coming out, call ahead of time, and so we know you're coming, and we'll walk you around.
All right. Well, you know what? Lisa, when I posted my horn there, and I said, I should be an honorary cannonball, guys, because I keep I keep buying cannonballs. She said, "You are part of the family, Dave. We really appreciate you." So I was like, "That was nicer." So I'm part of the family. Randall, Am I part of the family now,
You
brother?
are part of the family, and you know what? We love people like you, and we love our endorsers, and we love our educators, and we really do feel a pretty strong connection to you guys, to all those people. You're not our customers. We really do feel like we're like giving a saxophone to a relative, and you know what I mean. And
Right,
so we
right.
want people to be really, really, really happy, and it's more than that. We want to have like this connection we have through this interview, and every year at NAM and stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's like I always enjoy seeing you and catching up, and.
yeah. Likewise, man. And this has been a wonderful interview, man. I really appreciate you, brother. And keep doing your thing, man. And let us know about what you got. Anything coming up? Any new music coming out?
That's all I've been doing this summer is working on new music. So I'm going to be releasing a few singles here over the next few months. So
Okay.
starting in September, I got a single coming out in September. So
Sounds good. So, Randall, before we go, let everybody know how they can see all your information, all your social stuff.
yeah, well, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, at Randall Clark Music. You can find me on my website is randallclarkmusic.com. So I'm really easy to find. Um, I've done a few educational kind of things on YouTube as well. I have a bunch more of those coming out. I got, you know, performances of covers and my own tunes and stuff I do on YouTube. So I'm pretty easy to find.
I
So
watch all your stuff, by the way, brother. Especially all your tunes and all your tips, especially on voicing and everything. I watch all that stuff, man. Yeah.
I need to redo that video because that was one of my very first ones. And I had the camera set. I didn't know, see, you just have to do stuff, man. I didn't know that you were supposed to only have this much headroom, above you, but I have like this much. So
Okay. All right.
no, it's funny. I look at the video and I go, yeah, I could have put the camera in a different place for that.
Yeah. Okay, Randall. Hey, man. Thanks you a lot, brother. I appreciate it. And I've been trying to get Gerald. It's been taking a while. He said he's going to do it, but he's got a schedule. I know he's busy just like you guys. So just like I
Yeah.
do you, I hit him up every now and then. Gerald, how you doing, brother? Whenever you're ready, I'm ready. So uh, if you see him,
Well,
just tell him Dave said hello, man. Okay.
I will
All
do
right.
it.
All right,
So,
Randall. Take care, brother. That was Mr. Randall Clark of Cannonball. Check him out. Especially go to the NAM show. The best booth at the NAM show is the Cannonball. All right. You guys have a wonderful day. This is Dave Saxologist. You guys take care. Mirando, man, that was wonderful, brother.